New brands, new rosters, you would think this would be the time of year to cherish and enjoy. But instead, Crimsix lets us know about the dark past that was the last 2 years of OpTic Gaming and his hopeful future for his Dallas team that was recently announced in this past week. In this episode, we'll take a look at the branding of Call of Duty Dallas, as well as obviously what went on with Crimsix and his hopes for the Dallas roster going into 2020. COD fans, good to see you guys back. It's been some time, I know. It's been a little bit of a weird last 2 months for me. The offseason has hit a little bit differently. The timing of when announcement happens versus when I was even around were a little bit back and forth, so I didn't really have a chance to make videos, and then it was 3 or 4 days after announcement. It didn't really feel necessary to make a video at that point, so I want to start bringing out more regular things, and this seems like the proper video to kind of jump right back in. Now, to start things off, again, I will be doing another video here kind of getting you caught up on what's happened so far, the teams, kind of meeting them, not only as far as rosters we know, but also brands. But for this one specifically, I want to spend some time talking about the Dallas roster, as Crimsix broke an article today published on the Call of Duty League website that talked a lot about not only his personal career and the Dallas team coming up in this next year, but some of the mishaps that happened alongside OpTic in the year previous. Now, before we get too much into that Crimsix drama, I want to talk specifically about the Dallas brand, because that happened as far as revealing the roster and the brand once every day for the last week until we finally got there. It took a 6-day whole launch program. The videos were very well done, and the roster has been completely revealed. We'll start with the brand first, though, as this was the most exciting part. The Dallas Empire will be the name and branding for the Dallas team coming in 2020. Personally, I could not be more happy for the Dallas community, Dallas fans, Dallas players, and everyone involved in the organization, because this brand reveal was done extremely well. Not only did they have great production value behind each of the individual videos, but this brand is absolutely sexy. I'm loving it. I'm loving the subtle MV that you can kind of see inside of the crown itself. I love the simplicity of it. I love the dynamic of it. It definitely fits alongside with what Dallas has built. A little bit, I would have liked to have seen this be New York Empire, since that they're the Empire State, but regardless, it is what it is. The Dallas team has done a great job, and this is definitely one of the better brands that has been announced, at least in my opinion, so far. Now, coming with that, we also need to take a look at the roster that comes along with Dallas. Of course, you're looking at it as far as an order of who got announced. It was Clayster first, of course, coming off of a world championship, and before that, winning the Call of Duty League playoffs. And then just after that, we also got looks into Huke, Illy, Shotzi, and of course Crimsix rounded things up, and he put a very interesting tagline in his video saying, "I will never forgive and I will never forget." Definitely hinted towards some drama that was coming up potentially as far as what happened with the whole OpTic roster. Now, if you've been following along with OpTic or Crimsix or Scump or whoever from the OpTic roster, you probably got feeling that there was some animosity near the end of the season or immediately afterwards the season when it came to not only Crimsix, but how vocal he was about the organization as a whole. Now, before we dig too much in that drama, I got to remind you guys about Crimsix and his history and track record. Again, he's one of the oldest, most veteran players that we have between him and Clayster alone. These two guys have been playing since essentially the inception of any kind of a formalized professional league for Call of Duty, and then before that, dating all the way back to Black Ops 2 for Crimsix. This is the most important thing in my mind, though. Crimsix has only finished outside the top 4 a total of 13 times. Trust me, that's insane considering that he's participated in a total of about 70 events. Beyond that, though, how about this? He's only finished outside the top 8 3 times in all of that. All of those coming with OpTic Gaming, starting in that kind of mishap that started to spawn in the World War II era. He's been playing with Scump since the Advanced Warfare terms, and then on top of that, he's played with Karma pretty much his entire career outside of Stage 2 of World War II, where Karma kind of took a backseat and went as a streamer role for the OpTic Gaming's crew and didn't play the back half of the World War II season. So it seems a little bit strange that out of all the players that are out there, the combination of those 3 guys have played with each other for almost the entirety, if not the entirety, of their careers. But as we kind of looked a little bit deeper into the can of worms, as Crimsix's article was posted, link will be in the description below in case you missed it, he kind of pins up what exactly had been going wrong since the beginning of World War II, dating all the way through Black Ops 4. He lays it out that the OpTic situation was essentially Karma, Coach TP, and himself pitted up against Dashy, Scump, and TJ. Seems a little bit strange to think that, but he kind of claims that the reason why these guys broke up was that the power was going to their heads and creating egos, talking about Dashy, Scump, and TJ specifically after the Vegas event and really the preseason when they were dominating everybody. In case you missed that, they were untouched. Nobody even came close. Even at Vegas, no one really even came close to beating them. And then it was that whole season, kind of that middle, I will say the middle of the season, but that whole winter where nobody really played much at all. And then they had to play with Zuma as a fill-in for the first 2 weeks of the actual regular season. He even goes as far to say, imagine spending an entire year of your career babysitting. That's what Black Ops 4 felt like. The core of the team had 6 champ rings between us. Our fans expected greatness, and so did we, because we were great. And he's not wrong there. They were absolutely incredible, and everyone was very aware of it. The Green Wall looked like it was going to come back after that unfortunate top 24 finish at Champs in World War II and just win most, if not every event going into Black Ops 4. They were well ahead of the curve of every other team out there. He goes on to say, too bad the greatness I know we had didn't last beyond the first event, only placing third a couple of times after that first event win. We had the capability to do so much more, even going as far to saying that they were the joke of not only scrims, but all boot camps as well, as they weren't even setting alarms for things like set scrim times. Teams were waiting on them because they weren't ready to go, and it really did seem like the picture that he painted was vastly different than what kind of Hex was talking about on the eavesdrop, where he kind of referred to it a couple of different times when Karma was on the show. So definitely an interesting dynamic there. So again, the animosity that was kind of framed up after the World War II season, it looked to be mostly from the community standpoint eliminated because, again, these guys were playing so well. It looked like it was going to be a match made in heaven. Wasn't indeed the case whatsoever, and you even go back to just after the time at Anaheim and Miami when they were trying to switch up roles and things like that. I imagine a lot of this kind of came to light during that time, and that's really, again, where I think the community got a good look at that without even having to know what the background workings were. It really felt strange to see this OpTic team struggling so much considering the talent that was there. The only thing that makes sense is the fact that this brand, and this team rather, was indeed falling apart. I mean, again, you have to put the stress as the fact that Hex at this point was going through all of those sales issues with Infinite Esports and all of that. That had to affect the team at some point of view. They probably at a certain point were looking at themselves as just individual stats, getting themselves ready for 2020, and it looks like, at least based on the article that was posted here from Crimsix's perspective, that the event and the season was really chalked at a certain point. After the season was over, Crimsix goes out to detail a call that he had with Hex saying that the potential roster going into 2020 did not want him on the team. That's when we started getting all of those cryptic tweets, and a lot of the videos that were done by other content creators were talking about how Crimsix has apparently been imploded out of the OpTic brand. And he even goes as far to say that the call from Hex was not so much of a courtesy, more of a you're getting dropped call than anything else, no matter how Hex was trying to frame it, how nice he was trying to be. And he actually, again, on the Eavesdrop podcast, was talking very specifically about some of the things that he was doing at the beginning of Black Ops 4 to make sure that these players that he cared about had a place to play and were getting taken care of. All that really was left with the after-season thought from Crimsix, and this article was saying the fact that I want to get my former team back for everything they put me through, everything I've had to deal with, everything that's gone underappreciated. I want to put them in the dirt. Enter Dallas. This is where, again, the conversation happens with Hastro. It seemed like a pretty common sense pickup at a certain point because of the history that these two share with one another, again, dating back to Crimsix's career in Black Ops 2. Again, one of the more established competitive pros with one of the best winning track records out there in Call of Duty history. He goes to say about the Dallas team that he's extremely happy with this entire team, honestly. It's the perfect storm of people. We have new players who have wanted this for half their lives, true. And then we have players like James Clayster Eubanks and me who have the experience to help guide them. And then we have Kyler Hugh Garland, the dormant superstar who wants to be what people believe him to be. And honestly, let's just go ahead and say this. Hugh is everything that we've been pinning up to be. I personally feel like he's been stuck on a couple of rosters that have not really given him a chance to really showcase. Is there a product of it being 5v5 and team shot based game in Black Ops 4 where you can't just individually pop off all the time? Very well could be the case, but it comes with that Crimsix ends his post by saying, I will never forgive and I will never forget. That's what I said in the Dallas Empire reveal. You better believe I meant it, every single word. So, When it comes down to this Dallas roster, what are our expectations? The brand is great. The announcements are great. The production value behind the team is incredible. The Dallas Fuel, same situation. I'm not surprised that the Dallas organization has their things figured out and are doing a great job of making sure they can approach that to the community as a whole. You take a look at this roster, though. Again, Clayster and Crimsix have played in every single professional competitive week that I can at least track on their history that's possible to play in. 110 total pro experience weeks just on regular season weeks alone. Out of those, they have some of the most events attended with some of the best average placings. Crimsix has an average professional player placing of 3rd at events that he's been to. Out of 57 events that he's been to, he's got an average placing of 3rd. Clayster, with 54 events attended, has an average placing of 5th. These are some of the best AR players in the game, period, going into a Call of Duty where AR gameplay, I feel like, is going to be a huge staple of who's successful and who's not. This team is looking absolutely deadly. It just comes down to, does this team have the ability to beat a Seattle or beat a Chicago or beat an Atlanta who have a little bit more professional experience behind them? Can you just rely on the AR players to hold down their ground? I think partially yes. It's going to be a lot of question marks, though. It's no doubt that Illy and Shotzi have been incredible in, I guess we'll call them, their semi-pro career, grinding through things like CMG elites, UMG events, things like that. But can they be proven on a professional stage where you have to play in and out every single day against high-level competition at your very, very best? Huke is also a little bit of a question mark, but not necessarily because of the individual player he is, but I'm wondering about his teamwork and his team chemistry. When he was playing on Envy last year, that roster was all over the place, obviously also had a couple of their own dramatics going on in the interior, and then he gets traded to Splice late in the year, where I think Splice is really looking at him saying, carry our team to victory, and that was a game that he could not really do that in. I've seen this guy play a lot in CMG and other kind of events, and individually this guy is absolutely insane. It just comes down to, will this team be able to build a leadership mentality and a co-centric mindset between all 5 of them? We do not know exactly what their roster is going to look like as far as supporting staff yet, but you have to figure that with Clayster and Crim being there, whoever gets the head coaching job is pretty much going to have to just sit down with them and say, what mentality we want to build? Let's do it together. It's not going to be a one person runs this. It's going to be Crim and Clay, who have experience playing with one another, by the way, trying to lead this team to a very equal mindset with these new players, and how do you gear them up? The biggest question mark I think I have, kind of wrapping this up for you guys about this Dallas roster, and I will do a report card going over every single little thing about this roster as far as SMG ratings, AR ratings, pro experience, synergy, leadership. We'll report everything. We'll rate all of those things. My biggest question mark is, will the individual gunners like Shotzi and Illy, who are used to playing abbreviated search and destroy tournaments, be able to perform against the best in the world day in and day out, weeks in a row, having to travel almost every single week to do so? That's my biggest question mark. It's more than just, can you play the game at a high level? There's a lot of outside factors that come into play. Fortunately, Crim and Clay will be there to help get them ready for that mentally, but it comes down to physically, will they be able to perform? My honest opinion is yes. This team is going to be a top 5 team at least, if not a top 3 team in the league, just based on how I'm looking at this roster alone. Very excited to see it happen, but that's going to put a wrap on everything from Crimsix's side of things. Again, the article, if you want to read it for yourself, is in the description below, and of course, take a look at what else is going to be coming up on this channel here in the near future. If you're not already subscribed, please consider, and of course, a link to my Discord if you want to jump in and have a conversation about this video is also there in the description below. Till next time, friends, hope you guys keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.